If you're an Office 365 or now Microsoft 365 user, you know that there's been an explosion of new apps, including 3 that plan things to do in lists. In particular, what we're talking about here is Microsoft Lists, Microsoft To-Do, Microsoft Planner, and we're going to also explain a little bit about Microsoft Project. So what we're going to do now is demonstrate how these different products operate and what you can do with them. The biggest thing, however, that you need to know is that they're really all based on SharePoint. And you think, what's SharePoint? Do I care? The short version is you don't care. It's a back-end tool that your administrator will know about, and it's used for all kinds of things from websites to forms to surveys, but mostly what it's used for is lists. Let's get on to the 3 products we're going to focus on, which is Microsoft Lists, Microsoft To-Do, and Microsoft Planner. And then we're going to have a quick tack on for Project to explain what that difference is. The way you get into lists is you go to portal.office.com and sign in if you haven't already signed in. You can either click the application launcher in the top left-hand corner and go to lists, or you can click all apps and go to lists, or you can just click lists down in your menu here. So let's click on lists and we'll bring one up. So as you can see, there's not a lot here, and that's a good thing. So let's go into this one I wrote a while ago on just a quick list of things I've got to keep track of for Office 365 for another video we're going to do. Microsoft Lists is the most basic of all of the offerings. It's little more than a simple web-based Excel workbook, and it only has 1 column by default. So let's go back and create a list from scratch here, a whole brand new one. So I'll click New List in the top. We can call it whatever we want. We can also import data from Excel. I'm just going to start a new blank list, and I'm going to call this one List. And we'll color it. Doesn't make any difference. Let's color it pink, and we'll put a little icon in it. Doesn't make any difference. Click Create, and it will be done in a second. And then you'll see basically you get the world's weakest Excel sheet. So I'll click New, and in the top left-hand corner here, we'll just put new is show the first thing. How's that? There we go. I can create an attachment, but it's really not that exciting. Now I can click new here, and I can say show the second thing. I don't care about capitalization. It's just lists, so here we go. Click on that. Click Save. Now you think, well, that's pretty basic. Yeah, pretty basic. I can push it out to Excel, however, and really the only advanced thing I can do with this, it's hardly advanced, is to add a column. So I go into here and say, I really need I want to put a choice link in here. So I'm going to call this done, and I'm going to call the first choice yes, and the first choice no, and the third choice in progress. Actually, I'll call it in prog, just so you see it can be anything at all, right? And I'll say save. And now I can click on, let's say, the second thing here. And you think, well, I can't really do much here. Yeah, you click Edit All. And then I can say from the drop down, I'll say this one's in progress. There we go. Right? And it just shows up here. It's nice. And I can keep adding columns as I see fit. But it's pretty basic. Now, Microsoft Lists promotes itself, at least on the Microsoft website, as having an Android and iOS app. But in fact, the app for Lists is Microsoft To-Do, which is the next thing we're going to get into. Lists does not have an Android or iOS app. It is also not available as a Windows desktop app. However, Lists is available through the browser, as we're showing here, and it is also available in Microsoft Teams. So let's quickly show you Teams. Get into Teams here, go to our test team. I'll go to the top and click plus, and we can add a list. In fact, as you can see here, I can add an existing list. And you'll notice it says to use a SharePoint link. So I can simply go here, copy this, go back to my Teams, and paste it in. And you can see demo list has come up at the top here, and it'll take a minute and finish off, and it will populate it. That'll take a minute. We're not going to wait for it. Let's just minimize that, and let's move on to To-Do. So Microsoft To-Do is available from the app launcher again, or you can just get it from the side if you're just going into portal.office.com from scratch. I can go into To-Do. Now, To-Do is a bit confusing because it used to be called Tasks. So it gets used all over the place. So let's go to our test for demo here. And you'll see I've got a bunch of stuff already written out. The thing to keep in mind is that To-Do is really what probably most companies want their people to use. Lists is pretty basic, but To-Do is the next step up. And it allows you to do more complex things. There is an iOS app for it. There is an Android app for it. There is even a desktop app for it. Let's show you that very. So you can just go to the store, Microsoft Store, and it's free, by the way. You can search for Microsoft To-Do, and I already have it, but there it is. Now take note, there's a lot of other dirtbags trying to steal the graphics and use similar things, so you got to make sure you get the right one. This is actually it. When you click on it, it'll say Microsoft Corporation. There we go, and I've already got it. I've already got it installed, so I'll just click Launch. But I could just click at the start and click To-Do, and it would show up. There it is, right? And there is To-Do, kind of a daily planner. It's a handy little thing, and this does tie into your Outlook. So I'm going to get rid of this app because it's really the same as the web page, and we're going to make the web page our primary here for this course. But just you get the idea that it's all pretty much the same. So let's get rid of the app. To-Do lets you repeat things, set a due date, add subtasks, which Microsoft calls steps, add attachments, and even set reminders. So let's go in and let's create a new list from scratch here. We're going to call this one Test 3 for Demo. Call it whatever you want. It doesn't make any difference. We'll go in here and we'll add a task of eat pie, because that's just a good idea. And then get whipped cream. Why not? And then notify my girls. There we go. And we will jump through hoops. Okay, so it's just a giant list. It doesn't make any difference what it is, right? Now at this point, I can share it, which I can also do with a list, but that's really about all you can do with a list that's interesting. With this, I can do all kinds of cool stuff. So let's go through notify girls. Okay, I have several girls I want to add in, so I'm going to add a step, which Microsoft, well, they call it a step. All it is a subtask. So I can say notify Bryn, add daily, add Patricia, right? And there they are. And you can see I've got 3 subtasks here. I can set a reminder. I could assign a due date, and I could set it to repeat. Also, there's categories. So I'll set this to be, and you can rename these categories. As you can see, I've renamed this one to friend. Let's set this one as family. There we go. We'll just pick that one. I could also add an attachment quite easily. If I go and look at eat pie, you can see I don't have any sub-steps. Let's go back to the girls. I've already notified daily, so I can just click on her. There we go, and scratch her off. Isn't that nice? And I can go into jump through hoops. Already done. There we go. And I can select to add to my day. And my day is just a summary of the day. And I could add all of these items or not. Let's go back to here for just my test. Now, the thing that's interesting for most people with this is that this is actually something that's been around a long time in Outlook. It's called, used to be just called Tasks, as I mentioned. And you'll notice that down here, there's a new icon. Well, it's been there before. It just wasn't called To-Do. It was called Tasks. And you can see here, this stuff just got added. Right, so here are all of my tasks. Isn't that handy? And now a couple of things that are interesting is, let's drill into eat pie. We'll just go into that one. And you can notice in here, I can assign the task to somebody else if I wanted. I can also mark it complete. I can also set a percentage completion, which is kind of handy. You can't do that with the web version, which I don't understand. So I assume that Microsoft's developers are working hard on that. Now, something to note here is that strangely, To-Do, that's not really strange, but, and you'll see why in a minute. To-Do is not available in Teams. So if I go into the plus and I try to find To-Do, it's not there. I could try Tasks because it's really just the rename of it. And yeah, there's some add-on task tools, but these aren't Microsoft, and no, it's not there. Now, the reason it's not there is because of Microsoft Planner, which is the last of these new apps we want to discuss. So let's get to that. We'll click back here and we'll go to all apps and we will go down to Planner. There we go. You notice the little fake P there because with PowerPoint and Publisher, they need another P app. Okay, now Planner is really quite powerful. You're not going to confuse it with Project, which we're going to get to in a minute, but you can see that you can create different buckets. These columns are called buckets. You can drag things around. You can categorize, you can filter, you can assign to people. And this has, instead of just assigning things to people, Planner has the notion of members. What that means is I can go into members and I could add in somebody else that's in my group. So I'll add in D. Matthews, and this will automatically send her an email. And in her planner, the planner that we're talking about here, this demo content planner, will just show up. No, I actually don't want to invite Daily, so I'm going to remove her. You can use Planner completely by yourself. You do not need to add other members. Lots of people don't. But that's really its power, is the ability to have other people interact, and you can work on documents at the same time. You can see each other's edits. It's really great. So let's go create a new plan from scratch. We'll call this one Test Plan 2, okay? And we'll keep this one private. I don't need a description on it. I'm just going to click on Create. And you can see here, it just starts. It's very basic. Now, there's a whole lot of things I can do. I can click Add Task, and it automatically assumes you want to add one, so it comes up with one. So we're going to call this one, let's say we want to build a building. So in this case, we need to hire architect, right? And we need to assign that to me, and we need this done by Tuesday because, well, that's just going to be fast. That's just how that's going to work. Now, add task. Let's go in here. Let's go pour concrete, right? Because, again, you want to get to that right away. You want to start pouring 2 days later. Also silly, right? Now, you think, okay, so this is a to-do list here, but I can rename that. That's just text. I could call this, I can categorize this any way I want. I can call these buckets anything I want. So I could have these as Ian's tasks. I could have these as pre-tasks. So I'm going to call these pre-tasks. You know, so sort of before we get going. And then a new bucket, I need a consultant task. So these are ones I'm going to have to deal with consultants. Now I need a new bucket here, and I'm going to have this one for construction group, right? So these are ones that the construction group are going to take care of. And then we've got to sell this building, so I need one for the marketing group. Okay, and I can just keep adding tasks as I go. Now, you think, well, this doesn't look that complex. Well, it actually does. It doesn't have to be. You can keep it simple, or you can go into these and they'll pop up. And you'll see here's really where I can do more things. So here are the sub lists. I can go into here and I can add, let's see here, hire architects. So this should be find architects, right, to consider. And then the next one is get references. And then the next is interview. And then so on and so on and so on and so on. And I can add attachments. And you'll see on the left here, it's showing all of the items, and that can get really long. You can just turn that off. See that on the left here? It's kind of interesting. And the notes are not going well. Seems like a silly schedule. And I think everybody would agree with that. So at this point, I'm going to say change it from not started to in progress. Priority is high. It's urgent, in fact. And I need to start that. Let's go with today. There we go. And we'll put my comments on there. And let's close that. Oh, great. Labels. Yes, labels are great. So you can rename these labels. I will call this label problem. Red will be problems. So let's flag that as a problem. And you can have multiple ones. So I can go into here and I could say it's also yellow. whatever you decide yellow is. And again, I could rename yellow. Let's close that. And you can see it's going here. Now, I could say, well, this is actually something I'm not going to finish. I'm going to move this off to the consultants. I can just drag and move it. Just works great. I'm going to create a couple of other tasks here and not have you sit and watch because, well, you'll just get bored. I've got my silly construction job in process, and you think, okay, well, that's kind of nice, but really, who cares? Well, let's show you a couple of things that you might find useful. The first is charts. It'll tell you where you are, what the status of the whole project is. And you think, yeah, okay, it's kind of nice. Here's really where it shines. Click on schedule, and especially if you change it to week. You can see that these are the projects these are the things I have in motion that I have to get through. I can now click on this one and I can say, you know what, this one I have completed. I did talk to Tanya. It's actually no longer a problem. This one's actually now blue. And I really don't like the blue, so I'm going to change that to all happy. There we go, right? There we go, and that'll change that label in all of the things. All of the ones that are blue are now labeled all happy. I can filter in lots of different ways here. I can see just the items that are unassigned. I only want to see those. Those are ones I care about. I can see just the bucket. I only want to see the consultant's bucket. Right? Because there's just too many buckets here. I need more. I need to clear it up. I want to see the consultants and the construction group buckets. There you go. So this is really handy. And something else notice, when you go back to board on the left, I can just keep adding new buckets and adding new buckets. It'll just keep scrolling along. There are a couple of other things in Planner that really get overlooked a lot, and they really shouldn't. The first is, and where I'm going here is the ellipse. So click on the ellipse. Now look, if I click conversations, what this is going to do is launch my email, specifically through webmail, and it's going to search through all of my mail for anything to do with this plan, which I don't have anything, but it's pretty cool that it will do that. I can also go back here, and this is super helpful. I can find files. So you know that there's an Excel file in here somewhere. You don't know where it is. Which task is it under? Where is it, right? I've got thousands or hundreds of these. It's a mess. But I just want to find the files. Well, you just click on the ellipse, and you go to Files, and it will bring this up. Now, I don't have any, but if I did, again, they would be there. It's pretty great. Another one is Notebook. If I go to Notebook, it's going to bring up a OneNote. So I can have an associated OneNote with this, and if you don't know what OneNote is, well, now's not the time to learn, but it's pretty cool. So if you know what OneNote is, I'm sure you are excited about that. Another thing I can do is copy the plan if I need to move it into something else. I can also export the plan to Excel. And if I just want to rename it, I can go to Plan Settings and, change it there. The last interesting thing I can do is click on the ellipse and go to Add the Plan to my Outlook calendar. These are really helpful things to have. As we've mentioned, there is a planner app for your Android phone, and you can, if you click on this, all it's going to do is send you a link to your phone. Just go to your iOS store or to your Android store and get the planner app. There is not a Windows app for it, but you just run it through your browser, so it's not much of an issue. And you can get it in Teams. So let's just go to Teams and click the plus at the top here, and we could look through here for it. I'm just going to type planner, it's faster. There it is. We can bolt a plan, we can call this anything we want, so it doesn't make any difference. Save. And it will populate this in just a minute. I'm not going to wait for it. Now, let's briefly go and explain what Planner is missing. The big thing it's missing are Gantt charts. Now, there is a product from a company, as I recall, and I'm doing this from memory, so this could go badly, Apps for Pro Gantt chart. I think that's what it is, and I tested this quite extensively a few months ago, and it worked great. Apps for Pro, there it is. Now I tested this, and this actually works. It also wasn't expensive, it wasn't complex. It takes your data from your planner, and it will create a nice Gantt chart for you. And it just works. We also had regular staff test it, and they were okay with it. It worked just fine for them as well. So you can get around this limitation that Planner has by using this Apps for Pro add-on app. And by the way, when we say an add-on app, this only ties into your browser, which is all that most people want. They just want to be able to see it and bring up this data, as you can see here. Now, let's flip back and let's talk about Microsoft Project for a bit. So Project, it really focuses on this notion of a critical path. And a critical path is the idea that some tasks rely on other tasks to be completed before they can be started. So for instance, you can't start in the installation of a toilet before you finish pouring the cement for the floor and getting the plumbing in and having it inspected by the building inspector. A Gantt chart will give you this, see this path that just keeps flowing down? That is what an awful lot of people want. However, Project is expensive. You can see here in Canada, it costs between $10 per seat and $70 a seat. You think, wow, that is a lot of different price. Well, why that is this. Project Online Essentials is probably right for most people. What the Project Online Essentials is just the online version. It does not come with a desktop install. And the limiting factor with that, beyond it just being web-based, is that you cannot import your existing PRJ or PRGX files. So if you want to start everything from scratch, Project Online is probably great for most people. If you actually need the software, you're going to have to go to Project Plan 1. And you can see that's just an extra 20%. And then you move all the way up through Project Plan 5. And Project Plan 5, very few people will want. That is for people that are building skyscrapers. It lets you tie multiple projects together into a single project. It's a pretty cool app, but very few people here will need it. All right, so a quick summary on this is, what is Microsoft Lists? Microsoft Lists is the very basic tool that lets you do very little other than create lists. Not very sophisticated. Then there's Microsoft To Do, formerly Tasks, bolts into Outlook. It has an iOS app, an Android app, and you can do all kinds of cool things with it, including subtasks and reminders and attachments, repeated tasks. It's a dandy little tool. Then there's Microsoft Planner, and Planner is really designed with the notion of groups. Now, you don't have to work with other people, but you can, and that's really what it's designed around. It's designed for the more complex things. If you really need a Gantt chart, you can get an add-on tool, or you're going to have to go to Microsoft Project, and Microsoft Project is the real meal deal. It lets you it doesn't let you. It tracks costing. It's easy to assign things to others. It produces a critical path. It gives you the Gantt charts, but it's not cheap. And that's about it. If you have any questions or concerns, please get a hold of us at www.urtech.ca. Thank you. Bye-bye.